Hi there. I'm Jim Zirin. Welcome back for more conversations. With us is Jerry Saltz. Jerry Saltz is the senior art critic for New York Magazine, and he is a critic with a capital C. He won the Pulitzer Prize for criticism this year. Jerry's mordantly colorful opinions carry a weight far heavier than that of his many contemporaries. And so when Saltz offers his view on a museum exhibition, a hot new artist, or a gallerist, the art world takes notice. Saltz is the people's critic, bringing art to a broader audience, not only through his New York Magazine column, but also with his witty, irreverent, and unapologetic posts on social media. Jerry Saltz has, among other things, trashed the art fair phenomenon. Today, he argues the galleries have all become hamsters on wheels, going from fair to fair to fair, spending gobs of money to rent booths, hiring leggy young women to flog their wares, and all too often showing art fair art, meaning art that everyone's all too familiar with already, and maybe second-rate art at that. So what's the answer to the art fair dilemma? What's hot and what's not in art today? Jerry will tell us on our show. Jerry Saltz, welcome.
It's great to be here, Jim. Thanks for the introduction.
Well, you have your introduction, and now let's get down to business. Now, Jerry, how do you become an art critic? I've always wanted to be an art critic, go to all those openings and rub shoulders with the wealthy collectors and the artists and the gallerists. And how do you get to do that?
Well, if you're like me, you have no degrees at all.
No degrees?
None. I was a wise ass when I was a kid. I tried to go to school.
You're no longer a wise ass.
What?
You're
well, I tried to go to school. I failed. I left school and wanted to be an artist. And I started making art, but after about 10 years, I sold art, I showed art, I was around, I ran an artist gallery in Chicago, but after about 10 years, I quit making art, and by the time I was 27, I dropped out. I was in exile and was a long-distance truck driver.
A long-distance truck driver?
The only Jewish one, I think.
It's a real minority group. And so did you do any art while you were driving the truck?
No, I was just filled with bitterness, cynicism, envy.
All the ingredients that go into a critic.
A bad critic.
Right. Now, you are often assessing and telling us what is good art and what is bad art, and you've written that 85% of what you see is crap. How do you tell the difference between good art and bad art, and what is crap art?
Well, Jim, I really think that while 85% of the stuff all of us see all the time might be no good, that also means that 85% of the art that people saw in the Renaissance was not good, or during the greatest periods of art history. We've had it filtered out. Moreover, when you or anybody goes into the art world, 85% of what they see and 85% of what I see might not be good, but they don't overlap. It's in this really beautiful area where things overlap that we begin to have an interesting conversation and arrive at a certain consensus of what is contemporary art now.
Well, you are a critic of contemporary art, and you have to remember with the passage of time, contemporary art becomes modern art, and then modern art becomes old masters. But there have been certain iconic critics of then contemporary art in the past, people like Clement Greenberg and Harold Rosenberg, and they wrote about schools of art like abstract expressionism. Do you liken yourself to them at all?
No.
How are you different?
For a number of reasons. I'm not interested in connecting myself to a group. I want to take the situation on the ground as it is, live off the land, as it were, of art. Don't say, well, I only like painting, or I don't like painting, or what have you. I think that's silly, because inevitably you're going to see a painting that you like. Also, I think, and this is not a new idea, that both, especially Greenberg, stopped really looking after a certain point. A critic has to be able to keep changing her or his taste, his eye, to stay awake. And I don't want to be a bully. I actually think they were bullies. I actually am much more interested in what I call radical vulnerability, of participating in the art world, not trying to just issue the big right or wrong decision. There is no, art is subjective, frankly. You like Norman Rockwell? That might mean you don't have the best taste, but we can still talk about it.
But 85% of the genre of Norman Rockwell may be crap art.
But again, that would be true with 85% of the art made during the Baroque. It means that we slowly work out, or sometimes quickly, what we love, what we need. Great art might be what works, like somebody's great baseball swing. It may be ugly to some people, of people doing this, but it works. Art really may be what works for you. Each one of us defines what that is. It might be a beautiful modernist table like this, or it might be a big, ornate, insane, baronial, royal piece of furniture.
Now, you keep art criticism in the family. Your wife, of course, Roberta Smith, is the art critic for the New York Times.
Yeah.
And the two of you, and then a third, perhaps Peter Sheldall from the New Yorker, those are the critics. It's a small group. Should it be larger?
The three of us have a certain position.
A troika.
A troika. We don't even know what troikas are. But we are not the three. We are simply three. And there are many, many, many critics, and I think there should be more. Since there is no money in writing art criticism.
But there's no money in art either.
Well, that's
Except
true.
for the happy few.
That's true. So 1% of 1% of 1% of artists make money, and a little bit less of that than critics. What this means is that critics are free. They can write what they want, where they want, how they want, when they want. This means more and more critics should be starting up blogs, magazines of their own. If they write it, people will come. I promise you. Just because I have a position at New York Magazine, well, I have to earn my readers still. So does Sheldall, and who I think is the best, my wife, Roberta Smith at the Times, but I'm very biased, obviously.
Well, do you, and if I may, Roberta Smith, do you go to art shows together?
We both see about 20 or 30 shows a week.
Together?
No. We head out together and maybe like break ourselves into the first gallery, and then we split up, go around, see our shows, and meet at about 6:30 that night. Galleries close at 6. Everybody then gets ready to go to the dinners, to openings, to cocktails. I want to be frank. I love being invited to all of these things, and we're lucky we are, but we have no life really other than seeing the art, saying hi to people, and then going home. Maybe eating a slice of pizza and really just getting back to work. I haven't had a sit-down dinner in the art world in decades.
So on the way home, or perhaps over the pizza, do you and your wife compare notes on what you've seen?
We talk about everything that we've seen, all the thoughts we've had. I generally can't believe how smart she is. She can't believe how much time I've wasted talking to people. It works out perfect. And then we get home and usually pad right off to our separate offices in our apartment and try to deal with the anxiety that's already building about getting back to work. When you're a weekly critic, there's no downtime. It means, oh, wow, I saw this show and now I have to start putting myself together about it.
And do you agree with her most frequently on the bottom line? It's good, it's bad, it's hot, it's not?
I would say a little more than half the time, we agree, and then we have good arguments. And again, I tend to fold to hers. She's sharp.
So you give in to her argument after you've discussed it?
Well, not to write it that way, but yeah.
Yeah, you say 85% of what I just saw is crap, and she says, no, it was very good.
And then I'll go, tell me what you liked and why. And if we both decide that A Star Is Born wasn't as great as everyone else said it was, and then we try to unpack why together, whether we're wrong or right.
Okay, so then is there an inherent danger in that you have one point of view and two platforms?
Yes, there could be. If both of us started saying artist Y is the artist to watch, and then we both bought artist Y.
Well, suppose you don't buy. But
we don't buy art.
If you say you don't buy art.
No.
But if you say artist Y is the artist to watch, and then I buy it, you've made a career for an artist.
Couple of things, Jim.
Yeah.
If we're going to do that around a young artist that we just saw this afternoon and go, wow, she was great. I think it's too much to have both of us write on the same artist. And one of us will beg off. And frankly, because I think the platform that Roberta offers and her voice, and I love my work and my platform, but I will tend to fold to her preference if she says, no, I really would like to do that. But if you're like Richard Serra or Pablo Picasso or a museum show, it's very different.
Not such a stretch that you'd agree on that.
Yeah, and we probably would disagree here and there anyway.
Now, what about writing? Here you have no degrees.
Right.
You were a truck driver, long haul, and you won a Pulitzer Prize. Lots of people around with lots of degrees who didn't win a Pulitzer Prize.
Yeah.
And when you won it, you paid tribute to your wife and said that she had really created your career as a writer. Now, what was that all about?
Well, when I first started writing, my first I came out of the trucks.
When was that?
I came out in about 1990, just saying, finally, I hit a bottom. I just said, anything has got to be better than what I'm doing. Failing, being an idiot in public, whatever it takes. And I began writing, and then in about the mid-90s, I got a call from the Village Voice. Peter Sheldall had just left to go to the New Yorker, and they said, would you like the job at the Voice? I was in shock. My wife and I both decided I should never take this job, that I'm not ready.
How did they find you? Off a truck?
They found me because I had been writing here and there for Time Out magazine, Art in America, other local magazines, writing as hard as I could, Jim. Just really putting it out there, trying to find my own voice. First, I tried to write smart gobbledygook like everybody else and say, the commodified object of the late capitalist simulacra with the post-Derridian. And then people would say, that's so smart. But I realized I didn't know what I was saying, that I was just writing to be told that. I began writing at The Voice, and about 6 months into the job, Roberta read a piece of mine and said, if you don't get better, I'm going to kill myself. And I just thought, well, that's a bad idea.
She was referring to your writing.
Yeah. I had to push even harder because now I was writing weekly and for a live audience, as it were. And I pushed myself much harder. And I think I reached some sort of voice.
Now, as I said at the outset, you're known as the people's critic. I think you referred to yourself as a Borscht Belt critic.
Not me, but I'll accept it.
You'll accept that. Well, do you make fun of art? Do you make fun of artists in the art world?
I never would punch down. I would only punch up. And I think I would only like to say things that people are already thinking anyway. I will not ever be intentionally cruel to an artist or a work of art.
How about a gallerist? I mean, do you
Never. I love gallerists.
You like them all?
Well, I don't like all gallerists, but I love the idea of galleries because art is free there. It costs no money. The people that work in them, that people like get intimidated by, they're making no money. They're making just barely minimum wage. Their laundry's dirty at home, and they're just as poor as you are. We're all about the same bashful and poorness and eager in the art world, and pathetic, I suppose.
But
I
Larry
love galleries.
Gagosian isn't poor.
No.
And he's the panada. He's one of the panadas that everyone likes
What's
to
a
take.
panada?
That's someone everyone loves to take a shot at.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's everybody's
So
job.
do you pile on when it comes to Larry Gagosian, or you kind of lay off?
Just because he's like a Death Star from another planet and enormous, he's doing great shows. There's Cy Twombly shows, Pablo Picasso, over and over. I never miss a show there, and a lot of times it's annoying because the container feels so wealthy. But you've got to see through the money, Jim. Right now we're living in a very abbreviated period where money has come to stand for the art world. This is very temporary and it's very gross, but it is making a lot of people's lives possible.
Well, you just had that auction at Christie's with the David Hockney in the swimming pool.
Right.
For what, $100 million? That's the most that's been fetched for a contemporary work.
Yeah, and these numbers, they go up month after month. The Hockney.
And what accounts for it? You've said that there are about 20 or 30 or 40 people that control the art market.
I don't know about the word control. I just said there's probably 55 people actually doing the bidding, the buying, and a lot of fake chandelier bids. In other words, if you fake sell something, you know the three people who came closest to it, if you're the seller, and that way, once you buy it in to the house, this might be getting too in the weeds, you know which three people to even get more money out of. But 55 people are doing this, and mainly the market buys what other people in the market have already bought. I think the Hockney is fine. He's a 90-something-year-old artist. He's very good. This painting from the early 60s is one of his better ones.
Well, it's a gay theme. Is it just a trend, a fad that people are buying paintings with a gay theme? Or,
no,
or
I
an
don't think so.
African-American theme or
I think
a feminist theme?
All art has sexual theme, social theme,
Political themes.
political theme, beauty theme, and sometimes one theme might be in front of another. In a Francis Bacon, of an exploding pope, it might be rage against religion. It depends in each work of art. So I don't think it's a trend. But I will say what is a trend, and will go away, is all these collectors buying what all the same collectors have bought. I promise you, like I said, it's a tiny percent of artists that everyone's paying attention to. And again, more power to people for making money. We all want money. There's
Well, is
nothing
the
wrong.
art world all about money? Has it been corrupted by money?
Far from it. Some of it has always been corrupt from money. Some of it always will be. It's ever thus. It's just more thus than ever. It will change, believe me. Once the money moves away, and I've lived through the periods like this, money will move away again, and we'll be left here on our own, and it will be just fine. Art is doing great.
And that's a good thing.
It's a great thing. Art is part of the whole ball of wax, Jim. It's no more or no less important than economics, philosophy, religion. It's not the decorative hedge in front of the citadel of knowledge. It's just part of everything. It's a cosmic force. And it's been here with us since the beginning. Since before the beginning, Neanderthal made art. They had a material culture where they traded stones and made tools and made them symmetrical and made them beautiful.
But they didn't sell them for $100 million.
But they traded them probably for a basket or for some meat or some better flint.
So they saw value in it.
Because there was.
Because there was.
They put it in. We are God when it comes to art. We place its life force in it.
Now, let me ask you about Jerry Saltz, the critic, because there's something you do that no one else has done, and that is because of social media. You've, in effect, promoted yourself. You have a very conspicuous Instagram account to which you're posting all the time.
Yeah.
Rendering advice to artists, showing pictures you like, some of them quasi-pornographic, some of them outright pornographic. Why are you posting so much on Instagram?
Well, my first self, my real self, is very shy, very bashful. Like I said, I don't go out. But my second self is a bit of a gregarious maniac. What happens to me at home, I spend 16 hours a day at my computer writing. And if I get an idea from something I'm thinking or writing or get anxious, I'll go online, find an image, and post it. It might be a medieval image that's recently come to light of somebody being tortured. I will post it, and maybe the people are naked. But excuse me, this was 1,000 years ago, and I'll write some sort of smart-ass reply like, here, I'm going to be teaching at your school, and this is what I'm going to do to you. People call that pornographic often. But
nothing pornographic about a 1,000-year-old nude.
Exactly. And it was a masterpiece. I've done this with Roman things. So I post a lot.
But it's not only pictures, because
No.
you had a recent post, got 150,000 hits already, where you give 33 items of advice to artists.
Right.
And just to give an example, 5 of them you quote Louise Bourgeois, tell your own story and you'll be interesting. You quote your wife, embed thought and material, whatever that means. Artists must be vampires. Why must artists be vampires?
That means
You make it up as you go along.
we're making it up as we go along. Everybody is. Everybody always has. But it means that artists should stay up late with each other every night, with one another, with your own kind.
Well, another word of advice you have is learn the difference between subject and content. Now, there's a picture of Pope. Subject's the Pope.
Right.
What in the hell is the content?
The subject matter of the Francis Bacon exploding Pope. The subject matter might be the Pope or a Pope, but the content, again, might be rage on Francis Bacon's part, railing against religion, against authority, about claustrophobia of being placed in a box. If you want to put homosexual content in it, it's there. He's gay. It was illegal in England when he painted that painting. He could have easily been jailed. Easily. All of that is the content of the work. It's different than a Raphael, Madonna's, or a Raphael Pope, which is beautiful. You see? Or when you see a Hieronymus Bosch portrayal of hell, even though it's horrific, it's painted with love, care, delicacy, grace. That's the content of the Bosch.
So do you see Francis Bacon and the Pope as being the ancestor of Hockney, with the gay theme of 2 gay lovers breaking up, and at a time when it's legal and
I think
it's out of the closet?
All art is part of, you're right there, that art is part of the long freight train of art history. All art, Jim, comes from other art. So it's all related. It's all part of the whole ball of wax. But never reduce any work, any great work of art, to just one idea. When you see Hamlet, it changes every time you see it. And that's what great art does. It's not just one student from Denmark worrying about his dad. It changes every time. And your Hamlet is different than my Hamlet. That's great art.
Now you've written that you consider yourself the goalie of the art world. And you say you have to be pretty good to get past me. I mean, what do you mean by that?
It means that I don't want to be a cheerleader. I don't want to just be rah-rah. I don't want to pick sides before the game, like I'm on the side of expressionism, or I'm on the side of neo-conceptualism. I want to be a goalie, so everybody is out there taking shots on goal all the time. I'm trying, and I'd like to fashion myself something of a goalie and say, if it gets by me, it's got to be pretty good. That idea came to me from another critic named Peter Plagens, but that's how I feel today. And I've missed a lot of bad shots have gotten past me. And a lot of great ones I didn't see coming. Many.
So, Jerry, I have a question for you, maybe a couple of questions. I guess the first question that occurs to me is, why do we need art? And the second is, why do we need art critics?
We need art as much as we need everything else. Like I say, it's been here since the beginning. We may not know what it's doing for us, but it is making our culture. We are making it. It then fashions us. If you think about what film noir is, in a way, you know, Dashiell Hammett might have invented Los Angeles sunsets and things like that. Maybe Monet invented sunsets or like that. This is where Jesus looks like is invented by certain Renaissance painters. That's what's in us. That's what art is doing.
But why do we need art critics?
I don't know.
You don't know. Jerry Saltz,
Thank
you
you, Jim.
so much for coming by. This has been marvelous.
For me,
and
too.
Thank you for coming by. Tune in next week for more conversations. For Conversations with Jim Zirin, take care and all the best.